cute is this thing? Hello everyone, this is Ofrutra. Alright, episode 3. Let's finally get out of the movie era. I'll try not to waste too much time here at the start, but let's do a quick summary of what happened last time. Shenron explains to everyone that a Saiyan can only take part in the God ritual one time in their life. However, while performing said ritual, everyone gets an unexpected boost from it. Vegeta develops a bond to the divine energy as it transfers into Goku, putting him closer to the God form than the others. Gohan remembers the unique energy of the ultimate form, and thinks he can find a way to reattain it after letting its power slip away from him. And Videl gains the ability to sense Ki, opening up her understanding of its nature and how to use it properly. Lastly, Goku commits himself to mastering the God form after realizing it's a possibility during his fight with Beerus. And that should just about cover it, which leads us pretty naturally into Goku and Vegeta's training with Whis. Nothing drastic really needs to change here, but I think there's a particular scene that we really need to see. When they attain the Super Saiyan Blue form. Yes, it's still here. Despite the trash I was talking before, I don't despise this form. I mean, blue's my favorite color, so I like the look if nothing else. The part that really drove me nuts about the blue form was its role in the story, being immediately stronger than the form that came before it, and not really having any meaningful context for the characters. I mean, they just sort of got it. But I think we can do something about that. And I'm even gonna do something nice for Vegeta while I'm at it. Sometime into their training, Goku and Vegeta had hit a wall. They haven't made any real progress in days, and the frustration is setting in. However, Whis notices that Vegeta seems to be having an especially hard time of things, and fears he may even start regressing if something doesn't change. With this in mind, Whis recommends something drastic. He suggests that Vegeta take some time away from training. Rest his body and think about what may be holding him back. Perhaps even spend some time meditating. Obviously, with his hot-headed nature, the idea infuriates Vegeta. Stopping his training routine to sit around and do nothing while Goku gets ahead of him? It sounds like an admission of defeat. But the only thing that makes him more furious than that is the fact that he knows Whis is right. He's stuck, and he's despondent enough to try just about anything. So, he actually gives it a shot. And here I want to explain a little theory that I have. Well, more of a headcanon really. I'm sure there's a Daizenshuu interview somewhere that proves me wrong, and honestly the Universe 6 Saiyans kind of already do. But I have this idea that each Super Saiyan form has its own unique trigger. It's actually a coincidence that I wore this shirt today. That was not part of the plan. Obviously, Super Saiyan is just rage. You just have to get angry enough, and it happens. Super Saiyan 2, however, requires a little something extra. Rage is a part of it, but it's mostly a feeling of deep personal loss. Gohan didn't just get mad that 16 was killed. He had to give up his pacifism, which was a major part of his identity. He lost a part of himself in that moment. I think Vegeta went through something similar after Cell died. Losing Goku may have actually helped him get to the next level because he wasn't training just to surpass him anymore. That is assuming Vegeta could use Super Saiyan 2 naturally and it wasn't Babidi's magic that pushed him into that form, and there's a whole lot of ways I could be wrong there. Now Super Saiyan 3 is actually the simplest one. You just have to reach a level of strength so that you can get into it. However, it's borderline impossible without some sort of otherworldly help. Goku could only figure it out when he didn't have the strain of a living body, and Gotenks could only do it with the help of a magical dance. Now the God form, like we saw, it can be regained for a short time. So what brings it out? This might be a cop-out, but I think it's desperation. It wasn't anger or loss that made Goku shoot back into it. He simply needed to do it to stop Beerus. It's not easy, of course, but that's the trick for bringing it out until he learns more about it. As for the blue form, well, let's see. Going into the woods surrounding Beerus' home, Vegeta spends his time alone and simply thinks. At first he thinks about what's holding him back, why Goku always seems to be getting ahead of him. then he wonders why that still matters to him after all this time. Eventually, he moves beyond his personal matters and focuses on the feeling he had when the spark ignited in him during the ritual, trying to remember that fleeting connection he had to the god form. Finally, he spends hours contemplating godhood itself, what it even means to become a divine being. After 2 or 3 days of this, he has a breakthrough, and he heads back to put himself to the test. We see Goku and Whis having their usual practice session, when something causes them to get distracted. They see Vegeta return from the woods, and it's clear that he has a goal in mind. He walks directly to Whis and asks him for a sparring session, one-on-one. Whis agrees, delightfully curious to see where this newfound confidence is coming from. And while Goku is annoyed to have his practice time cut short, he wants to see what Vegeta has come up with too. The match begins as you would expect. Vegeta powers up as far as he can and immediately charges at Whis in Super Saiyan 2. And as you could guess, it's not enough. Whis begins effortlessly dodging and blocking Vegeta's attacks like he always does, and begins to worry that all this effort may have been for nothing as he prepares for another one of Vegeta's huffy tantrums. However, after a few minutes, Vegeta does something that catches all of them off guard. He leaps away from Whis, regains his composure, and powers down a level. Yes, Vegeta tries to continue this fight in his regular Super Saiyan state. At first, Goku can't believe his eyes. Why would Vegeta try fighting with even less power when he was already completely outmatched? Whis, however, can immediately see what Vegeta is doing and is simply delighted. As he flies back into the fight, Vegeta's attacks are obviously slower and weaker, but they're also more varied and focused on technique. Whis' movements become wider and he seems to be paying more attention. When Vegeta backs off again and reverts all the way down to his base form, Goku finally catches on to what he's trying to do. Vegeta's epiphany came when he started thinking about what it meant to become a god. In pondering that question, he realized he may not know enough about himself as a mortal, or more specifically, as a Saiyan. In his desperate and constant search for growth, Vegeta never took the time to learn the subtleties of his other previous forms. And how could he hope to ascend to an even higher being if he doesn't truly know what he is right now? Which led him to this strange new strategy, testing his true limits in all his previous forms. Back in his base form, Vegeta is strangely maintaining his place in the fight. His attacks are again becoming more varied as he tries to predict the way that Whis is going to respond to him. Meanwhile, Goku is commenting to himself about the match, working his way through Vegeta's plan to compensate for his lack in power with a clearer head. I know it didn't play much in the show, but remember that being in Super Saiyan is supposed to have an effect on their mental state, inherently making them angrier. Since power isn't enough to get to Whis, he tries calming his mind and going for a more focused approach. However, something unexpected happens while attempting this serene state of mind strategy. While in his single-minded focus to get just one hit in on Whis, Vegeta's aura starts to slowly change. His punches move faster and faster, with errant blue sparks flying off of his fists. His mind is all but empty, his power is growing every second, and with one last strike, Whis catches Vegeta's fist, showing an effort in blocking an attack for the very first time. Taking this break in the action, Whis comments on Vegeta's new look. This surprises Vegeta as he didn't even realize something had happened while he was fighting. He looks over to Goku, who looks stunned. He then goes down to the pond to look at his own reflection when he finally sees what's happened. As you can tell, he has broken through into the blue form. Goku flies over to ask him what this new form is and how he got it, but Vegeta is just as confused as Goku. Whis offers a theory, however. He says that Vegeta is channeling divine energy, but not as properly as Goku was in the god form. Rather than becoming a god, it's as if his own natural ki is being augmented, as if he just discovered an intermediate form, one that only came to him after discovering his own inner clarity, or, if we're being dramatic, enlightenment. This is the true nature of the blue form, one's first step on the path to godhood. And look at that! I gave it to Vegeta first. Don't say I never did anything nice for him. After seeing this new form in action, Goku is hyper motivated to catch up to it as soon as possible. And while enlightenment is a bit of a tall order for him, following Vegeta's example helps him discover the form about 2 weeks later. Okay, so I had to be pulled away to do something else, so this part is being recorded like 3 hours later. Hopefully things aren't too wrong. Finally, we can move on to the last part of this video's discussion, which has us looking at the end of the Resurrection F story. Just the ending, because thankfully there's not too much that has to change with this one. Well, to be honest, there's a lot I would change with this. I'm actually not a big fan of this movie, but none of that is important to this discussion. What is important is what happens after Frieza is defeated. We have the small scenes of everyone returning home to the loved ones they'd almost lost, which we're going to extend just a little bit to include a sort of voiceless montage, which includes a scene of Gohan explaining what happened to Videl while she freaks out about it, because I think that'd be kind of funny. And now we have one last scene to tackle during the dinner party at Capsule Corp, and you probably know which one it is. Just like in the anime, Gohan asks for Piccolo to start training him again, realizing that he's too weak to protect the Earth the way he used to. However, right after he agrees to the request, Videl steps into the conversation and says she'll be joining them too. Obviously confused and shocked, Gohan asks if she's sure about this. Videl insists and tells him about the strange things that have been happening to her since the ritual. She explains that she's been training at home again, and the results have been outstanding, maybe even better than they should be. She's flying as fast as she ever was, and she may even be stronger now than she was at her peak. Gohan seems to understand what she means, and tells her that he's been feeling strange things since that day as well. Excited by the turn of events, Gohan turns to Piccolo and tells him that they'll all be training together. Piccolo likes the idea, but addresses the elephant in the room. What are they going to do with Pan? Mom and Dad kind of forgot her in all the excitement. With how loud they can get while fighting, and with all the dust and the heat in the mountains, it's no place for an infant. That's when Bulma inserts herself into the conversation. She offers to build them a training room at their house, similar to the one Vegeta has. It'll take some time to get built, but when it's done, they can work as hard as they want and never be more than a hallway away from Pan. She'll even install a baby monitor for them. And with that, the stage is set. Next time we'll be going into the tournament between Universes 6 and 7, finally addressing how a lack of Zeno will affect the story, and just maybe starting the Goku Black arc. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care.